Where are we? Are you? What?
Well,
Org.
you can
Oh,
request a, what would you like to speak?
yeah, the one that's 2016 ADOT.org. Bob wants me to talk more. Okay, a little bit about the program then. Well, yeah, let me back up here. And I want to talk about this is important if we're going to continue this discussion. ADOT Department of Transportation, Multimodal Planning Division. Remember, we've got Motor Vehicle Division, we've got several divisions. I'm in the Multimodal Planning Division. And then the Bicycle Pedestrian Program. Actually, I could have added a couple other layers of bureaucracy in there, but I decided to leave that out. Okay. Who knows that there is a law, U.S. code, that says, this goes back to 1991, that every state DOT will have a bicycle and pedestrian coordinator. And that person will be funded with federal funds. It also gets into other things like safe accommodation on bridges, planning and design, and note the wording though, due consideration, shall be considered. And the interesting one, I think, is transportation purpose. No bicycle project may be carried out under this law unless the Secretary of Transportation has determined that such bicycle project will be principally for transportation rather than recreation purposes. Now, the reason for that is funding, because there's a whole other program, and I heard it brought up a couple times earlier, recreational trails program, although those funds come through ADOT. There we are. And there's my job description. In the law, promote, facilitate, increase use of non-motorized modes of transportation, including developing facilities, and public education, promotional and safety programs. Yeah, that's the group of that met a few years ago, state coordinators. We're a group of 50. We get together every year. We have monthly calls. We have a listserv. We have therapy sessions. Okay, and then the Federal Highway Administration has program guidance about how that law is to be implemented. And so, here's, I just pulled out a couple of bullets from that guidance. Basically, I'm the advocate within ADOT for all things bicycle, pedestrian. A quick timeline here, because when I came to ADOT, I wanted to know, what's the history? Well, I could go back to 1973 when then Senator Sandra Day O'Connor co-chaired a committee that did a statewide bikeways program study. That's this green document here. The first annual bicycle planning workshop was in 1985. In '86, Governor Babbitt established, through executive order, a Governor's Arizona Bicycle Task Force. And that committee did a lot of great work. I don't even mention the repeal of the side path law, but they developed this facilities planning and design guideline, this document here, which, when AASHTO went to update their guide, they drew heavily on this Arizona guideline, both in their 91 and continuing on into their 99 edition. It was in 91 when Congress passed the Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act. President Bush signed it. It was really a landmark transportation bill in that the so-called forgotten modes, bicycling and walking, were recognized in federal law with funding set aside. Unfortunately, by 1996, Symington repealed the Governor's Arizona Bicycle Task Force. Is that right, Reed? I think you were chairing that committee then.
I think it was just a little bit earlier than that, but essentially Symington signed the document eliminating the task force, and then they filed it. ADOT didn't know. None of the staff knew. It was 2 years after he signed it that I was elected chairman, and called the governor's office to see how to appoint some new members. That's when everybody found out that we didn't exist. My fault.
But you guys did, you set the groundwork for what we have today here in Arizona. More recent history, in 2003, I think it was officially the first comprehensive bicycle pedestrian plan that was developed by ADOT. Actually, my predecessor is credited with that work, but there's a number of people in the room who were involved as well. I was involved actually, I was working at the local level at the time. We did the Cycle Arizona map in '04, street smarts, there's copies on the back there, very popular document. In '05, we did facility design workshops. Here's a, we had the engineers on bicycles. I think we got a coalition member back in here somewhere. We did a bicycle safety action plan in 2012. We pulled all the crashes that occurred on state highways, developed our own database, analyzed the crash reports, decided, determined what was happening prior to that crash. So we've got some very detailed information, which then leads you to coming up with a list of potential countermeasures. We did the economic impact study in 2013, and again, that was designed to be done prior to getting into the whole U.S. Bike Route project. We updated the statewide bike ped plan that same year. We had more bicycle facility design workshops in 2014, and then, like I mentioned, 2015, U.S. Bike Route 90. Okay, quickly, ADOT.org. We got the governor, we got Director Helikowski, State Transportation Board. Anybody ever been to a State Transportation Board meeting? Okay, they've got some public meetings going on right now talking about the next 5 years of construction projects on the state highway system. You might want to check one of those out. Okay, but anyway, and ADOT has reorganized a few times since I've been at ADOT. But anyway, here's the multimodal planning division underneath Deputy Director of Transportation State Engineer Dallas Hammett. Now, ADOT, DOT became a DOT in 1974 when we absorbed the Aeronautics Division. That's when we became a Department of Transportation. Prior to that, there was a State Highway Department. That's known today as the Infrastructure Delivery and Operations Division, and also Transportation System Management Operations. Basically, this is the kind of the key column here. We've got other sections. MVD is over here, and of course our whole administration within ADOT, finance. This is an interesting position here, though, on policy. Here's our communications office, public affairs, government relations. But anyway, you can see, here's multimodal planning. We're separate from where most of the engineers are housed. We've got roadway design, traffic group here. This is now where our safety section is. The Strategic Highway Safety Plan is now housed within Systems Management Operations. Environmental planning, they've grown quite a bit in years. Okay, so when you go to the ADOT website, you've got this menu to work from on top here. I did a screenshot of the planning. I don't know why we say transportation planning, but anyway, and I pulled, here's the bike ped plan. There's different news items up here. So the people I work with within planning includes regional. Well, let's see, the regional people are here. So the state's divided up into MPOs and councils of governments. We've got a planner assigned to each one of these areas. Of course, here in the MAG region, there's a bunch of committees, so I sit on the bike ped committee, but we've got other people doing highway planning with the regional agencies. Here's the programming section. I mentioned the 5-year construction program the State Transportation Board is holding public hearings on right now. So these are the folks that program all the highway projects, both state highway and on the local roads. We've got a whole section, data analysis, that out there doing traffic counts and monitoring the performance of the system and so on. We have this really nice state highway log. Airport, part of MPD. Transit, part of MPD. Now, this is mainly rural transit. Our research center is in the planning division. We have done some bicycle-related projects. These are just all the different programs, or studies, I should say, within multimodal planning. Okay, here's the ADOT bikeped website, azbs2016.org. So it's a separate, you can go, you can get to it from here. You click on this button, but so this is our main page, and we usually highlight the latest projects. So we've got this thing on US Bike Route 90. But there's a search function here, so you can go there and search this entire website. There's a separate page for bicycling, walking, maps, not just the Cycle Arizona map, but all of the local maps out there are linked. All of the planning documents that we've done over the years, not just the plan itself, but the individual studies, the Bicycle Safety Action Plan, Pedestrian Safety Action Plan. And then we've got this page on laws and policies, education, and then a list of contacts, local contacts here in Arizona. So if you go to the laws and policies page, we include, of course, Arizona statutes. You can go directly to Title 28 here. And then the ADOT policy, so we've got the state engineer bicycle policy. Here's the rumble strip policy. We have a controlled access highways as bikeways. I mentioned earlier that, for example, Interstate 40, the shoulders were open for bicyclists per this. It's not actually a policy, it's a guideline process of a traffic group. And some other documents here too, including State Transportation Board policies. So, just here's the state engineer bicycle policy, and let me just run through it real quick if you want me to keep going.
Quickly.
Yeah. But there is a bicycle policy, and I encourage you to go to that link. And so here's how it reads: purpose. Here's how ADOT is going to accommodate bicyclists. And here's the authority is, of course, under ARS 28812. Bicyclists have the same rights and duties as drivers of vehicles. We've got some definitions. There's that shared roadway definition, which is a key definition in this policy. And then the more generic bikeway policy. These are, as you can see, coming from AASHTO and the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So, ADOT's goal is to provide safe and convenient bicycle access. ADOT advocates that bicyclists have the right to operate in a legal manner on all roadways open to public travel, with the exception of fully controlled access highways. Although you go on to find out that that pretty much means the freeways in Phoenix, I-10 between Phoenix and Tucson. Otherwise, all other controlled access highways are open to bicyclists per state traffic engineer. And then the policy itself, it says that for all new construction, reconstruction, this policy applies, and it includes bridges, road widening. Now you get into things like pavement preservation and some spot improvements, not included. But existing widths for bicycles will be maintained. Okay, and I'm just kind of hitting the highlights. But basically, here's the key part of the policy, that providing the so-called shared roadway, remember that definition, cross-section templates as a minimum condition, even if there is an adjoining shared use path. And then on a project-by-project basis, we may include a wide curb lane with a stripe, which basically this amounts to a bike lane width per ASHTO. But when it comes to marked bike lanes specifically, then those costs and that maintenance will be funded by the local agency, and it's got to be part of a facilities plan. So, State Route 179, good example. 89A, Sedona, another good example. As far as the shared use paths within ADOT right-of-way, same deal. They have to be designed, located, for safety, and funded, maintained by local agency. Again, that's within state right-of-way. And then there are other things like, surface condition. This is kind of a general statement. I've talked with our pavement people about getting a little bit more specific when we're doing pavement preservation jobs, and I hear talk about chip seal. Although the ASHTO 2012 guide has this description, actually it's pretty specific on chip seal, what that means. Although I think they need to refine it even more. But, whoops, one more thing here. When we restripe, we do consider the impacts of bicyclists. Now, this is where I come in. I'm trying to keep track of all these projects going on, and I'm trying to work with our roadway designers, our traffic people, on accommodating bicyclists, not to mention pedestrians. But it's ADOT's policy not to reduce travel lane widths to accommodate bicycle traffic unless it's supported by a traffic study. It's happened, and it requires the state traffic engineer and our roadway design engineer to provide concurrence. We do not sign or designate bikeways unless there's concurrence from the district engineer and me. Here's Bike Route 90. Okay, and then at the end, it says, hey, any change to this is going to require state traffic engineer, roadway engineer, and me to agree. Sometimes that happens. And just quickly, I pulled this from our roadway design guidelines, so I thought you might be interested. This is paved shoulder width. Now this is what our guidelines, basically it's a standard, what we say. I mean, we talk about controlled access highways, we talk about I really was focusing on the urban highways when I was highlighting some of the bicycle policy, but when you talk about rural, okay, here's our rural roads. Rural 2-lane, design hourly vehicle greater than 200 vehicles per hour, less than 200 vehicles per hour. Okay, so that's our lowest volume road. Shoulder width, 6 feet. Okay, that's our minimum shoulder width. Again, that's what we're aiming for. We don't always do it because funding, environmental issues, there could be a whole host of reasons why we can't get it done. But good examples, US 60, Gonzales Pass. That's Oracle Road. How are we doing down there on Oracle Road? That's come a long way. That's that part of it. Any questions? ADOT policy? That's the guiding policy. There are a bunch of other things, of course. I mentioned roadway design guidelines, but we've got things on maintenance, drainage grades. Roadway design guidelines establishes a bicycle compatible drainage grade. It's required in all of our projects. We've got specifications on maintaining shoulder widths, climbing and passing lanes for bicyclists. So there are pavement preservation. It actually addresses some bicycle issues that are out there doing a pavement pres job, and we've got a drainage grate that's not compatible for bicyclists. It gets changed out. And that kind of stuff is looked at by our roadway designers. Yes.
So did these policies you went over, do they apply to the freeway crossings over the interstates in the urban areas like Interstate 10 and 17?
All ADOT right-of-way, yes.
So because it seems like a lot of times there's bike lane on either side, but not on the bridge, and a lot of times roads on either side are well maintained while the bridge accumulates garbage, and I get confused about who to talk to.
No, that's a good question about, whose jurisdiction. Kind of a general rule of thumb on the freeway, say, in the Phoenix area, interchanges, concrete, ADOT, asphalt, local. But that's not necessarily right on target. But as I mentioned, ADOT does not mark bike lanes. But if a local agency wants to mark bike lanes, then that can be worked out through agreement. I don't know, I'm thinking of an example here, Ray Road over I-10. That bridge was reconstructed a few years ago. Okay, it's got a wide curb lane. It could be bike lane. There's enough width there. Or actually, a better example, Chandler Boulevard, I-10. That is going to get bike lane, City of Chandler. And Joe, City of Phoenix is going to pick it up on the west side. But, so, yeah, debris, that's a big issue. And, when I hear from somebody, I pass it on to our maintenance people. Unfortunately, our maintenance people have really suffered budget cuts over the years. But, if you see something that's really bad, report it to the district. And I guess I can't emphasize enough is get to know your district engineer and his or her maintenance engineer. Those are the people out there, getting stuff done, or if you think something needs to get done, those are the people to talk to.
ADOT has districts?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, Mike,
yes.
while he's mentioning district engineer, I want to go back to the comments about policy and all the for lack of a better term, weasel words in there. You need to know your district engineer on the policy issues, and we need advocates in each district to get to know their district engineers. Some are very bike friendly and some not so much. And so the idea that a road's going to get reconstructed and the same infrastructure is going to be there, like a nice paved shoulder, doesn't always happen. Sometimes the road gets reconstructed and a lot of that paved shoulder goes away and there's a curb. And somebody's doing it for drainage reasons and they're not even thinking, nor do they care about bicycles. So knowing the district engineers in Arizona, Mike's told me this before and I've seen it in action. That's what we need to do.
And what I haven't mentioned yet is education. I focus on the street smarts, improving bicyclist skill levels. Safety awareness program, we had that pilot project in Verde Valley, getting all road users to understand everybody's rights and responsibilities to be out there. We've done these bicycle facility design workshops. We've also done the pedestrian facility workshops for our engineers and planners. But the other fourth piece of education is, we've got staff come and go. So it's a constant re-education process too. Some people say, oh, really, we have a policy? And it's talking about the details in those policies with people as they come along. Tom's got a pretty good relationship down in southeast Arizona, I know.
Yeah, they listen politely, and I'm sure they mumble as I move.
They say good things about you, Tom, believe me.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you all.